Fire, which is actually a blue sun. Why we call it sky?
That's how it gets to the fifth dimension and turns into light again. It kind of like is making me, I know that sounds crazy, but I had a download. It said I asked Plasma to explain it to people, right? And it goes, just like a shadow with light behind it. This is an explanation of who we are against plasma. Just like we are always there, but you can't see the shadow unless light is shining on it. To study plasma, and that way you can't see it unless consciousness is shined on it. So if something is conscious, you'll see it, but then, it just, isn't that weird though?
That's exactly what this is. So this is showing that the holographic screen of the event horizon is composed of the angular frequency of Hawking radiation that is leaving the black holes. So Hawking radiation is this special type of entangled particles that are emitted from the boundary of black holes. So there's a particle that's in the black hole, a particle on the event horizon, and they reflect each other just like a mirror. So the singularity is literally a mirror universe of this, where every single vector is flipped 180 degrees. They're literally mirror reflections. Think of the singularity as being like a spherical mirror. You ever see an infinity mirror where you look into the mirror, you see a reflection of the reflection of the reflection? This is exactly what black holes and event horizons are. The singularity is like a mirror. So imagine there's a singularity and it's a mirror, and I'm standing right here. And then around both of us is the event horizon or the holographic screen. Since I'm in between them, there's a reflection of me in the singularity, which then reflects in the event horizon, which then reflects back and forth. And the way that this reflection takes place is quantum entanglement, because nothing can escape a black hole, not even light. But Hawking radiation allows the information of what's in the black hole to escape from the edge of the black hole. And
the quantum entanglement is what makes it all happen.
The quantum entanglement of the holographic screen or the event horizon lets us look at what's happening in the singularity as though we're watching a movie through a mirror. It's like watching a television screen, but you're watching it in the reflection of a mirror. That's exactly what this is. It allows us to understand what's happening in the black hole without looking in the black hole, because you can't look in the black hole because it absorbs the light that you try to look at it with. But the Hawking radiation boundary tells you what's happening.
Introducing Remarkable Paper Pro. The future of paper is here.
The boundary tells you what's happening.
Okay, like what I would call plasma.
Exactly. So this shows, so what plasma is, or what quark gluon plasma, I should say. So quark gluon plasma is this special type of plasma. So whenever you in particle accelerators, if we shoot like two protons at each other and they smash into each other, right where they overlap in that little central piece, it forms a quark gluon plasma. And that quark gluon plasma is really weird stuff. It comes to thermal equilibrium at basically the speed of light. And what that means is, like, imagine you're in a cold bathtub and you pour in some hot water in the corner. How long does it take for that hot water to evenly distribute itself throughout the entire bathtub? It's quite a few minutes. Compare that to how long it takes light to travel across the bathtub. It's like almost instantaneous. And quark gluon plasma reaches thermal equilibrium at almost the speed of light. And this shows that the holographic screen, or the event horizon that is the projection of what's happening in the singularity, is a quark gluon plasma. So our universe is a holographic projection, and that projection is a quark gluon plasma.
You know why that is?
Within it defines reality.
That's crazy, because basically that proves to me that plasma is almost dying/regenerating, feeding this in black hole information, and then other stuff is being pumped out. That's probably the opposite of quark gluon plasma.
Yes, there's an antiparticle of everything, including you and me. So every single thing that exists, there is a mirror reflection in the singularity. The singularity is this one combined total source of truth, where everything in the universe, including you and me and everybody watching this, we are all together in the interference pattern of the singularity right now, all on top of each other in superposition. But when that
questions, everyone soon. I see everyone's questions.
One second, I'll set up. So, and that information in the singularity, when projected onto the boundary or the event horizon of the.
So, if one is not keeping up, when we was on Facebook and YouTube showing the Milky Way, the true Metatron cube and the flower of life. You would say life or death. It's all there on the timeline. So as they explain through plasma or the breath of God in what we call nebulas, that forms the system. The watchers of watchers we know as menorahs. The ones that protect the shepherds and the sheep of the Most High. So he just told you in what he calls the flower thing, that's the Milky Way. It holds all records. It's not the Holy Spirit. It's just the material, astro, nano, smart dust of a reflecto, fractal atom we call Vamana Merkaba, atom of part of this universe, of what the Most High predestinated or spoke of us about. Stacked information on top of information we call today MP3, MP4, went from there to CDs, records. Feel me? So if we're advancing, that means we're behind. We're not, most days. We're better. No, we're not. So they just proved it.
Black hole, it makes us all feel separate in our projected states, but we are all one thing, and that is light and the information contained within light. The zeros and ones that light equals.
That is okay. And information would almost be like consciousness.
Exactly. So this Stuart Hammerhoff, where Dana and I met, we met at the conference for consciousness run by Sir Roger Penrose and Stuart Hammerhoff, and it's all about, we are trying to understand the origin of consciousness. And this aligns just like yin and yang, like somebody just said.
Yeah.
This aligns exactly with what they're saying. They're saying there's microtubules in your brain, and these microtubules create a holographic image from the information contained within the microtubule. And what my theory is showing is that the universe is composed of little qubits, which are just like the microtubules, only much smaller, and they create a holographic image. And that holographic image is what's on the event horizon, and that image we can convert into a superposition of zeros and ones. So basically the universe is a quantum computer.
And in the microtubule, just so you know.
Oh, man. Oh, I didn't know that was coming. Bro, I ain't seen this, so I don't know what's going to be said. But I know we said that. I like, well, if this thing is copying it, and they're saying that their machine is called the quantum, then the information that they're holding is the quantum. What was written in our scriptures. Summarized, so to say.
Just like you're saying, between here and the singularity, and the microtubule, it's a mini process of that, where one of the dipoles has a different charge than the other one. And in between that is where all this happens.
Yes.
So
it's amazing. It's amazing that what we didn't know until just recently is that contained within the hologram is the zeros and ones. It's like the Matrix, only the code is written into the geometry of space-time, and the superposition of code of zeros and ones that is.
Okay, geo is Earth. So you're the geometric system of I put all my records and your purpose in your life, what you supposed to do. And what we've been talking about, they looking in, knowing us, because they looking in space. You ain't. You supposed to. You got that naturally. No machine, tired, not tired. Believe the vibration. What these people saying? I'm looking at timelines. I don't even have the degree of the earth, but I have the wisdom of the spirit. Much, much, much way greater.
Equal to that are identical. And as somebody else just said, frequencies, it is frequencies. So it's the angular frequency of Hawking radiation that leaves the black hole that allows us to understand what's happening inside of it. And the equation is something called the reduced Planck constant times angular frequency. That equals energy, which equals mass times the speed of light squared. So reduced Planck constant times frequency equals mass times the speed of light squared. If we solve that, we get, I'll shut up after this. The reduced Planck constant times angular frequency divided by the speed of light squared equals mass. So by looking at the angular frequency of the Hawking radiation that leaves the black hole, it allows us to understand the mass changes in the black hole and their charge and spin without looking in the black hole. We're looking at the Hawking radiation that leaves the boundary of the black hole to understand what's happening inside the black hole. It's like we were saying, it's like when we are looking at the universe, we are watching what is happening in the singularity where all information is contained, as though we're looking at a movie through a mirror.
Okay, let me ask 2 more questions, then we're gonna get to the Q&A, guys. There's like so many messages. Okay, 2 questions. If information is consciousness, let's say light is the multidimensional self or you in the singularity, what would plasma be? Would plasma be the mass, the Hawking radiation? What would you make that comparison to?
Boy, trying to describe it exactly is difficult. So I would, the way that I explain it is, I'm sorry, say that again.
So basically, let's say the light is the singularity. It's what I would call the multidimensional self. It's your higher self. Then information in the space-time geometry is consciousness. What would you call plasma? Would you call plasma the mass? So
mass, you could. Mass literally in quantum information holography, and now we've actually proven this is true, and we've confirmed it at CERN, and the Department of Energy from the United States Department of Energy has proven this, and everybody can, if you get a chance, look. You can look it up. So there's something called the Wheeler effect, and in 1950 or 60, John Wheeler showed that if you can get light to collide with itself head on, it will create mass. And in my theory here, quantum information holography, space-time is composed of these spinning bits of light that are called quantum states, and they're vectors. And those spinning bits of light have information. And those spinning bits of light interfere with each other at the speed of light at different angular frequencies. And how they interfere, that is what mass is. And we just, at CERN and the Department of Energy, just confirmed a few months ago, about 6 to 9 months ago, that we just created the very first mass in particle accelerators by colliding light waves head on.
So maybe that's literally what I would call, I think it's plasma.
Yeah, it's all related. What I have found that's amazing is that, so I talk to these scientists, and every equation can be graphed into a shape. So every shape actually is an equation. Like if I graph negative x squared, it makes this upside down parabolic arc like this. If I throw a ball in the air because gravity is like negative or 9.8 meters per second squared, it makes this upside down parabolic shape. So the path that the ball follows is geometry, and that geometry contains information like on a piece of graph paper that you see in algebra. And space-time is a piece of graph paper. It's just the graph is something called the Planck length. It's so tiny that the pixels, everything looks smooth. But you and I and everything are equations, holograms that are equal to equations moving relative to this grid structure, which is space-time, which is just like algebra. It's why they're the same thing. And most of these professors or scientists that I meet, they can only understand equations. Most of them don't understand geometry. If I talk to an artist, they understand geometry, but they don't understand equations. And what's funny is they're both talking about the same thing, just in different ways.
That isn't
religion. Same thing.
So many people have questions. I have to get to them. Last question. Would you call dark matter anti-plasma?
So what dark matter, dark energy, and luminous matter are the types of angular frequencies. So dark energy composes about 68% of the universe. 68% of all numbers are numbers that are symmetric, and if you look at them as frequencies, they cancel each other out and they cause what's called decoherence.
Okay.
So 68% of all 68% of all angular frequencies that leave the boundary of a black hole decohere into nothingness. They match the exact density of dark energy. Prime numbers, which are a special type of angular frequency that have asymmetry, they don't decohere, they don't destroy each other, so they stay longer. They mimic what's called luminous matter, which is approximately 5% of all matter. So 5% of matter is prime angular frequencies. And then there's something called semi-prime angular frequencies, and that is the 62, that's about the remaining 26 to 27% of what's in the universe is dark matter. And that
have to do with the anti-version of some kind of anti-photon or anti-plasma, or like what is it?
So dark matter is angular frequencies that they don't decohere. They have more coherence. So it's like two peaks, when two waves meet and the two peaks hit each other, it creates a peak that's higher. If a peak hits a valley, they create nothing. They cancel each other out. Two dips hit each other, it makes a bigger dip. And so this is showing that prime angular frequencies are like two peaks hitting each other, where it just totally amplifies what's on the holographic screen.
Okay.
Angular frequencies that are a combination of prime numbers, they have some decoherence, but they still are very coherent. And so that's dark matter. So luminous matter is angular frequencies that are prime numbers 7 and above, that don't decohere and last much longer.
Consciousness?
What now?
Is angular frequency consciousness?
Everything is angular frequency.
Everything,
Literally,
okay.
And I do mean everything. So like we can even take time dilation. So Einstein's time dilation equation is showing that everything is moving through space and time at exactly the speed of light. So the faster you move through space, the slower you move through time, so that your motion through space and time is always exactly the speed of light. And so that's called the Lorentz factor in Einstein's time dilation equation.
Yeah.
And the Lorentz factor is 1 divided by the square root of 1 minus velocity squared over the speed of light squared.
Okay.
Now that's how time dilation works according to Einstein. My time dilation equation, which is correct and gives you the exact same answers as Einstein's and has been empirically verified since his has. All I'm doing is saying that velocity squared, which is in his equation, we can define that by light on qubits. I won't go into the details, but basically it's d theta, the angle of the quantum state vector on the qubit relative to the qubit axis. That defines velocity using the speed of light. And the speed of light is what we call just 1. It's the radius of this little block sphere or unit circle. So in his equation, v squared over c squared, I can now replace that, where instead of putting v squared in, I put in angular frequency squared. And instead of being divided by the speed of light squared, the speed of light is 1. 1 squared is just 1. So angular frequency divided by 1 is just angular frequency. So the new time dilation equation that shows the quantum mechanical origin of time dilation, the Lorentz factor is 1 divided by the square root of 1 minus angular frequency squared. And that is equal to Einstein's. Only Einstein's just shows how to calculate time dilation. This shows the quantum mechanical origin of time dilation that is equivalent to Einstein's.
Sorry, I'm getting to people. Okay, hello guys. Okay, Danny said, can you explain geometry and, I don't know if this is a real thing, germator? Is that something real, or was that just being?
I don't know what.
Okay, we don't know what that is. Oh, what is the name of the people at the conference? Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose made what Jason was talking about is the OR theory about microtubules. Let's see. I'm just reading what other people are saying. Best live ever. Thank you.
Gematria? What's gematria? I've never heard of that before.
Agreements. I'm just reading. Could plasma be the movement between the shapes? Yes.
Hebrew numbers.
Yeah, so think of it like this.
Yeah.
Think of like when we look at a television screen, you see red, blue, and green pixels. You need these 3 different pixels. So whenever you look at a television screen, all you're seeing is red, blue, and green on all of your phones and your computers, everything. And they display at different intensities. So if you look closely at your screen, you'll just see red, blue, and green. But as you step back from the phone, all of those different frequencies overlap and they average together, like Richard Feynman's average of the sum of histories. All of those waves average together and you see the rainbow, even though you're only looking at red, blue, and green pixels. The event horizon of a black hole has 3 types of pixels: prime angular frequency, semi-prime angular frequency, and non-prime frequencies. And those 3 are like the contrast control on a television that allows you, against the black backdrop of a black hole, to say that all these bits of light are moving relative to that. It's this thing of light and shadow in contrast to each other, and the geometry that is contained within it that allows you to convert all of these equations into equations of information that are equal.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's so amazing. It's like things that we thought we couldn't understand. Once you understand that black holes aren't just these spots where nothing escapes, not only light.
Yeah.
They they store and project information. They're holographic hard drives. And
What are?
Yes, and we are. So think of it like, I always tell people, think of it like Netflix, or think of the singularity like Netflix or like a record player. I'll do it both ways.
Okay.
Think of it as a record player. A record has bumps and grooves on it that are vinyl, and the record is spinning, and a stylus reads the bumps and grooves, and it plays it onto the music on the speaker.
Yeah.
In this case, the event horizon is like this holographic screen. The singularity is like the record player, but instead of being vinyl, it's bumps, and it's an interference pattern of light waves where the mass converts back into light at the singularity, and it makes an interference pattern. All black holes are spinning at like 60 to 70% the speed of light, and Hawking radiation is like a double-ended light needle. One end of the Hawking radiation is touching the singularity or entangled with it. The other end of the Hawking radiation is entangled with the singularity. As the singularity spins, the Hawking radiation reads the interference pattern and plays the music or the movie on the holographic screen, and we're the movie.
The plasma screen, guys.
We are the plasma
Plasma
screen,
fans.
yes. And it's provable. That's what's so amazing, is this is provable. And this matches with all existing quantum mechanics equations and equations of relativity. It unites them because of information. And the reason why physicists haven't...
Let me interrupt. I wanted you to answer this part. This is really important because you said this in the beginning and no one was here. So as individuals, do we have any individuality, or are we part of the light watching the hologram? Tell them why they are powerful.
Yeah, we are. So we are both the observer and the observed. You are affecting and being affected by everything you're watching. Like I'm speaking right now, and I'm affecting you by saying what I'm saying, and you're affecting me because you're watching this, and I can see what you're saying, and I'm interacting with this phone. Everything is both the observer and the observed, and everything, no matter how small it is, isn't just important, it's necessary for the universe to exist. All possibilities must exist, and all possibilities aren't infinite. So there's not an infinite number of ways. Like if you ask, like, how many ways can we rearrange the molecules of our universe to make a new movie? It's called the Bekenstein bound. It's a huge number, but it's not infinity, which means after a big bang and a big crunch and a big bang and a big crunch, eventually the pattern repeats again. So all possible histories happen over and over again. And that's the weirdness of quantum mechanics, which now we're starting to understand because we know that black holes project information, and they project it geometrically and informationally, and those two things are the same.
Someone else said, are there differences in density with the dark and light? How does density work with that?
Yeah. There's a lot of different things that we're slowly coming together with. So it's the easiest way to put it is information density. So when we are looking at quantum states that are projected onto qubits from the singularity, the probability that that qubit will be a zero or one or constructive interference is the angle of that quantum state, the cosine of that angle squared divided by 2. So the cosine squared of the angle of the quantum state vector divided by 2 gives you the probability of constructive interference, which is higher information density.
Okay, so if I apply it just so they understand, this is going to be like an esoteric metaphysical application. Let's say we create information with our consciousness that, let's just say information is consciousness. If we're creating worlds in our head and there are all these realities, we can maybe travel to different densities with our consciousness. And these densities can hold different visual realities, different pockets of information within the earth and elsewhere.
Absolutely. So when you observe something, you're collapsing the wave function. So in quantum mechanics, all possibilities are always happening. So at this moment, I could go left, I could go right, I could go up, I could go down. But all of those are happening simultaneously. I'm already forgetting what you said.
You need muscle if you want to live a long time. You lose 3 to 8% of your muscle mass every decade after age 30, and it speeds up in your 60s if you don't do something about it. Losing that much muscle stops you from living a longer, healthier life because it leads to things like weakness, mobility issues, and over time, osteoporosis, sarcopenia, and all the other things you don't want if you're with me on living to at least 180. MitoPure offers the benefits of exercise specifically for your muscles in a pill. It builds muscles without changing your workout routine by targeting those muscles at the cellular level. Multiple studies show MitoPure increases muscle strength by 12% in about 16 weeks. It also improves endurance, speeds up recovery after exercise, it reduces inflammation, and it makes your muscles less sore after you work out. So if you want to feel better, have more energy, live longer, MitoPure helps you do that.
Oh, I was just making a connection. We'll move on.
Yeah, so this is one other thing I wanted to, this will help, this helps a lot for people to understand like how this works and why scientists have been missing this for so long.
Yeah.
So imagine you're playing a video game and if you're playing, I don't know, Pac-Man or Donkey Kong or something, and you can see the video game on the screen and you're watching the screen. Inside the video game, there's zeros and ones that are making what's on the screen happen.
Yeah.
If I would print out the zeros and ones in the computer on a piece of paper and put them next to the video game, the zeros and ones look totally different from what's happening on the screen, but they're the same thing. Informationally, they're identical. And so what physicists have been studying is the observable phenomenon on the holographic screen, but not the information that's projecting it. So they've been trying to understand reality by looking at the video game. So it's, in other words, it's trying to understand the zeros and ones of the video game by looking at what's happening on the screen and not even knowing that you're looking at the screen. That's the problem with physicists right now, is they don't even know yet, most of them, that they're looking at a holographic screen, and it's the information contained in that screen that will unify and does unify quantum mechanics and relativity.
Interesting, because, okay, so I'm writing that down. It's the information within, it's almost like you're staring at a person and they can't see the blood and the veins within them.
Yes, and the person is the code. If you look at yourself and I were to break you down into all the little quantum states, which are just these little hexagons, like you see in a beehive, like the hexagons behind me.
Yeah.
Imagine each one of these with just an angle of light, and the angle of that light encodes velocity using light. The rate of change of velocity is acceleration, which is curvature, and curvature, Einstein proved acceleration is equivalent to gravity. So these bits of light, it's a self-referential feedback loop. It's the mirrors reflecting light, and light uses itself to define information.
Which is how they're evolving.
Yes, when you break it down, everything is just these little bits of light spinning on these little qubit hexagons. And the way that information interferes and creates these interference patterns is what we experience. Like everything in reality is a projection of black holes that is equivalent to the mass of what it's projecting. So if you were to look at the Earth, if you take a black hole that is the exact mass of the Earth and squish it down, that is what is projecting the Earth, is the sum total of smaller black holes that total the mass of the Earth. And what's projecting our universe is a singularity that is the mass of our universe, but squeezed into a tiny spot that is projecting it.
So technically our eyes are black holes because we're taking in information.
Everything is black holes. We are literally the projection of what's happening in a black hole.
Oh my, guys, you hear that? We're all black holes, and our eyes and every friggin' thing.
Exactly, and that's how you can think of black holes. Think of black holes as eyes and the mouth. They're both. Everything, all the light that comes into a black hole is encoded. So as light or anything goes into a black hole, this is what's so weird about black holes, and that's why they're so beautiful, is they're both things. They're creators and destroyers.
Yes, they're like Kali, guys. Kali, just telling my audience, because Kali, the goddess of destruction and creation.
Yes, so imagine, like, if I'm falling into a black hole, and we look at this from two different perspectives, this is relativity. So if I'm going into the black hole, I cross the event horizon, and from my perspective, I cross the event horizon, I'm in the black hole, and I'm gone forever. I can't escape out of the black hole because nothing can escape, not even light, even though information escapes in a sneaky way. But from an outside observer, so I go in the black hole, and from my perspective, I'm in the black hole, and now I'm in a different universe, and I can't come back to this one. But from your perspective, if you're outside watching me go into the black hole, Well, black hole curves space-time. So as I approach the black hole, I start to speed up and go faster and faster. And to somebody else looking at me, time dilation to them makes me appear to slow down until I freeze and become smeared as a holographic image on the event horizon. So there's two different perspectives. From my perspective, I go into the black hole and I'm gone. And that's where the black hole is like an eye that absorbs everything. But to an outside observer, whatever goes into the black hole is encoded as a hologram and projected back out as Hawking radiation. So the black holes destroy and create simultaneously, which conserves information and energy. Nothing's ever created or destroyed, just transformed from light to mass, mass to light, and information is
God, it's all a transmutation feedback loop.
Yes. Yes, we've had this conversation an infinite amount of times and will an infinite amount of times in the future.
Oh my God. Okay, this person asked an interesting question. Is the horizon event the Z pinch point in a toroid? That's our pupil. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know much about everything about how our eyes work, but what we see with our eyes is information. Color doesn't exist. Maybe later if I can show you guys. I did a drawing of the rainbow, and the rainbow actually,
There's a lot of audience. Show them.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't have it with me. It's on my phone. I'll have to show you guys. It's on my Facebook page, but I will post it later. So the rainbow.
Tell everyone where they can follow you, because there's a lot of people on right now. Okay, guys, so you can follow Jason right now from this page, or what is your Facebook?
My Facebook page is just Jason Paget. I have two different ones, a public profile and a regular. And I'm now starting to make videos because AI is wonderful with how quickly it can make them. I'm making videos that explain a lot of these different things, piece by piece, where we don't go too much into the math. I published the math on the site called Zenodo, but it's kind of boring to just read the equations. But this is something that is understandable, and it's understandable by most of us. And that's what's so beautiful about it, is it seemed like 20 years or even 10 years ago, it seemed too hard to solve. And once we understood that black holes project information, it all just crumbles. We can solve time dilation. The origin of gravity is just the rate of change, how fast these quantum states are spinning. Because the quantum states, when they're holding still,
Two things. In the beginning, it was dark. The Father said he covers himself in the blanket pavilion of darkness. Isn't that the one that holds all information and project? Makes sense. But that's where we were leading to. I showed you the negative version. You know how you take pictures, you got the negative and then you got the color. I showed you the negative in space. You saw the little huts. You saw Alaska. How are we seeing this? The true picture now, that one I showed you, the ice wall and the earth, but how is there? There's no water. Your Bible said that. This kingdom, there's no water. No more seas. I showed you up there. But that's what's to come. But that right there holds all information, even particles, lands, and people, fake characters, well, you thought was fake. Seemed like we're matching.
Define velocity using the speed of light. The rate of change of velocity, which is just how these angles change, that defines acceleration, because the definition of the rate of change of velocity is acceleration. And Einstein proved acceleration is equivalent to curvature or gravity. And so we're showing that the rate that these quantum states spin is geometrically curvature, which is gravity and acceleration.
And sorry, they want to know what you were going to say about the rainbow. I cut you off.
Oh yeah, so the rainbow is a qubit. So I drew what the number pi looks like, because pi is supposed to be the circumference of a circle divided by its diameter. And so I won't go into the explanation of it, but I drew it. But every time you look at the double rainbow, you're seeing light go into a circle, and it's being squared, and it's not really a perfect circle. So what pi proves, and this will only take a second to explain,
Yeah.
is that in the real universe, there is no such thing as a circle or a curve for real. They do not exist. And at first that sounds impossible, but we're all looking at our screens right now. And our screens, you see circles on your screen, like for where it says Dana Kipple, I can see your face in a circle. But that circle is made with little square pixels. So if you zoom in real close, you see, oh, it's not a circle, it's a zigzag because it's pixels. But the pixels are so tiny that it looks like a curve. Now imagine you take
Exactly what we seen when I was zooming in. Just like he say, in the dark, these people ain't even in the blacks. We call substance, the faith. And even where there's no sunlight, the light of the saint itself, or soul, spirit itself, fractal, like he says, and we was able to see wings, kingdoms, but there's no light there.
Yes, so imagine you take the pixels and you cut them in half to a pixel half that size. Then you cut those in half, and you cut those in half, and you cut those in half. You can keep cutting pixels in half to infinity, and the resolution gets better, but you never get to a perfect circle because you can keep cutting them in half forever. So as pi's digits go out further, they're describing the resolution of a shape that looks like a curve that's really composed of squares. Like I look like I'm curved, but I make rectangle cells. So I'm not a curve, I'm pixels, but the cells are so small that relative to how big we are, it looks like a curve. But if you're a bacteria on my skin, it's gonna look like mountains.
Oh my, that's that.
Curves are illusions and they don't exist. There's just, and that's what calculus is. Calculus is how we approach the smoothness of curves, and we approach the area under a curve, but we never reach it. We just get infinitely close.
Someone just said something really interesting earlier about, they were saying that they saw a video that light is an angel and an angel is an angle, like angular.
Yes, yeah, literally. I mean, like I've had a lot of people ask me about God and things like that. And what I say is, if you define God as the source of all knowledge, the sum total of everything, that's the singularity. And the singularity is made of pure light. And so it applies, people can apply it scientifically, and they can also, apply it spiritually. Like my grandmother loves it because she says, God said, let there be light. And I'm just, all I'm saying is that for sure, we can describe everything in the universe with one thing, and it's the most fundamental thing in existence, and that's the speed of light. That's why it's in Einstein's mass times the speed of light squared, is because the speed of light is squared because the light waves are colliding head on. That's where the speed of light squared comes from, is the interference pattern of the light.
So how do we break the speed of light? Obviously, the speed of light is basically how our universe functions, but to create non-locality, how do you explain that relationship with like breaking the speed of light? Is that breaking the speed of light, or is it being non-local?
So, it's non-local. The entire universe, and this shows why the entire universe is non-local. Everything is non-local, which means that one thing here affects that other thing. When there's a qubit spin up in the singularity, it's spin down on the holographic screen. And that happens instantly. But what that actually is, the universe operates like a quantum computer. But in quantum computers, they're so delicate, we have to figure out all these sneaky ways to have error correction. Because if you just vibrating something destroys a quantum interaction. Okay. And so, well, now I'm sorry, I'm losing
my dog is distracted. Okay, basically I was saying, like, how can you explain non-locality and breaking the speed of light? Like,
so nothing can move faster than the speed of light, because everything, that's the weird thing about this. And Leonard Susskind, he's the chair of Stanford Physics, he also says the same thing, that's the weird thing about the universe, is that information isn't where we think it is. It's all on top of each other in a singularity. So it's literally in the same location. It just feels separate when it's projected. Wow. So we are all together, but we feel like we're separate, but we're all one bit of information. We are all.
Okay. So. Inside of the breath of the Most High, where we all come out, but not all of us gonna go back in. And these photos, which we showed, new and old, looking for a particular one. in a fractal, if you're a flame of fire, then that means one little line, that's you. All of us together and all your information that you know, you don't even make nothing but one little slit. Like God is Yod, the flame, but he's everything though. We don't even make a face. You understand what I'm saying? Though we see faces and people, you're a fractal of that. You're a pixel of that. Just like what we were saying when we were looking at this. Yo, this is a timeline. Information on top of information. Each swirl is a timeline. Either it happened already or it didn't. In and out within itself. Those shapes. That the Merkaba. See? You see it. And it's carrying what? Your Bible say eyes within eyes that never blink or blink. Yeah, you say the same thing, man. I was saying, like, it's just amazing. So to see it on the forefront, to hear from the experts, it's amazing.
With one bit of us entangled, that is a mirror reflection of us, all together in the singularity, which is this one point where all information resides, the one point where everything is happening at once. It's the real everything everywhere all at once. The
oh my God, we're all in a square.
We are the everything bagel. The singularity
God.
is the everything bagel. It's all things on the bagel, and when projected onto the holographic screen, it feels separate, but we're all together, and we're all the same thing. We all have more in common than we don't, than we have not in common.
Someone just said an analogy, and I'm going to give one, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. What you're saying, I'm going to say it in a metaphysical way to just translate to my metaphysical people, is that we're literally, you say a square, right? So, or a circle, but maybe a square. We're all in this universe, this three-dimensional realm. We're in a square at all different densities, which might hold different information pockets, different worlds. It's more densities than dimensions. When we talk about dimensions, we could call the kind of intersection point of quantum entanglement between the fifth dimensional singularity and the third dimensional world. That is how I see more dimensions outside the box, thinking outside the box. That's actually, thinking outside the box means a lot more to me now.
Yes. So in this case, space-time is composed. Don't let me forget information density, but I'll tell you how this is. So space-time, I have a drawing of this also. It's called E equals MC squared, but Y equals MC squared. Space-time itself is composed of these little cubes, but looks like a hexagon, like a bee's hive. Hexagons two-dimensionally, but if you look at it three-dimensionally, it makes cubes. But it's just a perception thing.
Oh yes, I know what you're talking about.
And so they're called Planck qubits. They're these little hexagons.
I'll show everyone while you're talking.
No problem. They're like a detector. So Leonard Susskind, he's the chair of Stanford Physics, and they have most of these equations, but they don't know what they're looking at. So they have the equations that explain the correct thing, but since they don't know that black holes project holograms onto their event horizons, they don't understand what to do with the equations. So what they've proved is, like Leonard Susskind, exactly just like that, two-dimensional hexagon, which it can also be viewed when you connect those vertices, those vertexes, that becomes a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional box. And if I shine a light on that three-dimensional box, it casts a two-dimensional shadow, and vice versa. And so what we are this four-dimensional shadow of the five-dimensional information that is at the singularity, that is projected onto the holographic screen.
This is not a good.
Somebody asked, why weren't we taught this? It's because it's only just recently. I've been working on this for like about 20 years, and only in like the past 2 years has it come together. And one thing that really sped it up was artificial intelligence, because I had to go to school. In college, I went to school for like 2 years before I could get my calculus teachers to agree with me that circles don't exist. I came in to day one for Algebra 1, and I already had all this done. I had it drawn, but I didn't realize that physicists and professors, they're looking at equations as just numbers. Whereas I look at them as the numbers are geometry, and they really are. And that's provable. But I couldn't prove it until I went to college for like 2 years, because I had to learn how to write it in equations to prove it step by step. So the first day when I walked into class, they were like, "What's this?" And 2 years later, they're like, "Yes, we agree." And so really, we're all talking about the same thing. It's just we all typically look at it in different ways. Yeah, and circles. Somebody just said that circles do not exist. No, you approach a circle, but you never, ever, ever reach a circle. And just the way to think about it is just imagine cutting pixels on your screen in half, and in half, and in half, and in half. There's always half left over, and you get closer and closer to a curve, but you never, ever reach it. So, when somebody says flat earthers are right, well, that's one of those things that it's going to be funny, because there's going to be a lot of people debating about this.
Yeah.
The universe is 4 dimensions. We are 3 spatial dimensions and 1 dimension of time, but we can encode information. And this is what the holographic universe principle is. The holographic universe principle shows and proves that we can encode our reality on the surface area of an event horizon, or on the boundary of an object. So every object that exists in the universe, on its boundary, like the walls of this room, I can describe every particle and everything in this room by describing the boundary of the room. And that's what we're doing here, is we're showing the boundary of our universe is really this holographic screen that contains the information of the entire universe. So even though we experience 4 dimensions, technically it's encoded on a 2-dimensional surface.
And I was just going to say, someone asked, yes, plasma is the space between, guys. At least that's what I'm saying. Just like the Steve Matthews Band song. What would you say about, and the space between, what you're saying, the boundary, it's almost like that's like the 4-dimensional box boundary. It's like if we're in a square, that's the picture frame, and it's shooting from all different angles from these black holes, the 3D projection.
So I have a picture of this on my Facebook page, but imagine the singularity like a disco ball, and it's surrounded by a bunch of little spheres that are like disco balls that together themselves make a larger sphere, and they're just reflecting back and forth, and how these light waves interfere with each other. That is what our reality is. Our reality is the interference pattern of the light waves, and those interference patterns is what mass is. Time is the angle that those light waves are moving relative to the qubits. And again, when you're moving in a straight line relative to the qubit axis, you're moving at the speed of light, which means you're moving totally through space, and you're not moving through time, so there's no time. But when you're moving at angles, you're moving partially through space and partially through time, and the total motion through space and time always equals exactly the speed of light, which is what Einstein taught in his special relativity.
I made a little thing there. I feel like this is kind of what he's saying. This is like the singularity, and it's kind of, there's this boundary. This is just a different way. It's like we're in a plasma painting, guys, of consciousness, information coming from that, and it's all projected from this 4th-dimensional boundary from the 5th-dimensional singularity.
Yes, imagine it like a snow globe. The surface of the snow globe, and imagine there's a projector like a movie theater, and it's projecting and reflecting off the boundary of the snow globe. And that boundary of the snow globe, its image that is on that, contains the information that tells you everything that's in the snow globe.
Wow. Okay, what would you say?
The surface of the snow globe is the event horizon, and inside the snow globe is the singularity.
Okay, and what would you say about NDEs, or near-death experiences? What is your theory when we die? Do we go to the singularity?
So this shows exactly what happens when we die. And that's one of the reasons why this kind of stuff is so interesting to me. Not only do I love the math, but I love the philosophical side of it. Who doesn't want to know what happens when you die? Where do you go?
You had a near-death experience.
Yeah, I got attacked in the robbery, and it's a long story, but yes. So what happens after you die? Mm-hmm. So the universe has a big bang.
Okay.
And I won't go too deeply into it because it takes too long, but these black holes are entangled, they're connected by wormholes, and as the universe expands, even though it's speeding up now, eventually those wormholes that connect the black holes are kind of like rubber bands. They reach this eventual point where they're at their maximum stretch, and the universe collapses back into a big crunch, and then boom, it rebounds in a big bang, and then a big crunch and a big bang. Each time there's a big bang, there's a possibility that all the molecules of that universe will line up just like this one, so the same exact history happens again. That's a really small probability, but it's a probability.
Okay.
there's a Nobel Prize winning equation by Stephen Hawking and this guy named Bekenstein, that they proved that the number of ways that you can rearrange the information in our universe is 2 to the 123rd power. It's a really big number, but it's not infinity. What that means is after 2 to the 123rd Big Bangs, the exact same pattern must repeat. So the patterns, there's 2 to the 123rd power different histories of our universe. And once you've had that many Big Bangs, the same histories start to repeat. So when you die, you're just energy, which is just light. You come back apart into your molecules, but eventually, after 2 to the 123rd Big Bangs, the same pattern happens again. And when you're dead, you're not in a form that can remember anything, so you can't retain memories. So when you die, the next thing you know is you're a baby, because even though it's the Googleplex years in the future, and a lot of times people will say that's so far in the future it doesn't matter. But what I tell them is this: do you remember waiting to be born? We know that this universe is at least 13.5 billion years old. All the atoms and energy that was you has been in this universe, and you had to wait 13.5 billion years to be born, but you don't remember any of it because you weren't in a form that can retain memories. So time is meaningless when you can't observe it. So you die, the next thing you know is you're a baby again, or you're in the next universe, whatever history that universe is. And eventually all histories happen over and over again. So no, we don't die permanently. In fact, to us, it seems continuous, even though it can be a Google years in between when you're born and when the same history happens again. It doesn't matter because to you it's instantaneous. And when some people, like I just saw somebody said time is an illusion or past lives that they remember. Well, the definition of a hologram is every piece of the hologram contains a reduced copy of the whole hologram, which means that every bit of us is composed of these quantum states, which are themselves a combination of all quantum states. So I am within the universe, and the universe is within each piece of me. So
let me say this. Tell me if you agree or disagree, because I remember past lives too, and I have very intense memories, and I know for me it is a soul journey. What could explain me getting in that memory when I'm here is, yes, I don't remember those lives being born. Maybe I don't remember it when I hop from life to life. But some of us who can access this fifth dimensional space, this multiverse of consciousness, whatever, of information, maybe we are literally remembering other lives. We're not meant to.
Yes. Well, and in some universes you are meant to. All possibilities happen. So in this universe we don't remember. In some you do. But in each piece of you, each quantum state is composed of all possible quantum states. So every possible history resides as a holographic information in each bit of you. So everything in the universe is contained within each of us. So if you are like anything that you can imagine, as weird as this sounds, this is quantum mechanics and the weirdness, any possible movie that can be displayed on the event horizon is an actual real history, which means any movie that we have seen in a movie theater is a possible movie on the event horizon, which means everything that you can think of is actually real history in some version of the universe.
I always say that because number one, that's why movies feel so real, and number two, I'm an actor too, and when I act, it feels like I'm almost downloading that consciousness of that character, and I'm like, this has to be real somewhere.
Yeah, and we are. We are the projection. You and I are a movie on the event horizon. We are. It's like this is another way to think of it. Think of it like Netflix. Netflix has a library of movies, and so imagine this is the library of all Netflix movies, and it streams them to our computers or our holographic screens. The singularity contains the Bekenstein bound, which is 2 to the 123rd power number of films. It projects them through quantum entanglement and Hawking radiation onto the event horizon. So we are one of the histories, one of the possible movies of our universe's history playing out on the event horizon.
There's two very important questions, and I think I have my opinion, you have yours, and I think they kind of meet. There is, the free will question, and also, sorry, I'm just trying to get the other one because it was very important. Yep. Just keep that in your head for a second.
I'm writing it down.
Hold on. Free will, and then, sorry, everyone's going so fast. Sorry, guys, hold on.
Yes, I do think the government knows some of this, but I don't think they know a lot of it because what we could do with it we're about to make a jump, like going from from like 1850s to Einstein's, how he changed the world. We're making a leap right now that's many thousands of times bigger than that. So the universe, our world is going to be unrecognizable in the next 10 to 20 years.
It's going to be like solar punk.
Yes, we are going to be able to, because see, we are a holographic projection. So now understanding how that works. So imagine, like, if I'm looking at my telephone screen right now, it's just pixels that are changing colors. But what I'm doing right now is we're designing a screen that is a three-dimensional screen, because it has pixels, and the pixels spin instead of just changing colors. And when they spin, they create a holographic projection. So we are, and already do have, holographic projections. Yeah, so look, anybody who's watching right now, type in Doom, the video game Doom, DOOM, and volumetric display. There's a man who just invented, it's a little square plate that spins inside of a glass sphere. And as it spins, it flashes lights, and that makes a hologram. So imagine we're gonna have TVs that are spheres, but we can also do it as flat screens. That as you walk around, it's a full-on hologram. So,
I'm showing it to everyone if they could see it.
Yes, Doom. So when you see that is literally
reality.
So the surface of that thing that you're seeing, that is the event horizon. The little plate that is inside is the singularity, and the lights that are flashing, that is the quantum state vectors being emitted as Hawking radiation. As the black hole spins, the right frequency of that information creates a holographic projection, and the holographic projection contains information that's zeros and ones.
Really quick, I have to plug my book, because, so guys, basically Jason has books. You can go follow his page right now. You definitely need to follow him. Go follow him on Facebook. Also, I have a book coming out, A New Force. And just as Jason...
So, that explains my question. How are we seeing everybody in the past up in here? Man, a bunch of sea crystal glass, molten looking glass, hydrogen compressed heat. That we are. You are the spirits everywhere. Like John, right? I took in here, took in there. Wow. I'm starting to think now, I'm learning how he went through different nebulas and seen what we seen. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, this is getting interesting. Holy Spirit ain't no joke, y'all. Thanks for coming out. Braka.